Welcome back guys, Brian here, and we're here with another video. This time around we're looking at the Oculus Quest. And like before, we're gonna get straight into build quality. This Oculus Quest is obviously made of plastic. A lot better plastic, unlike something I'd mentioned before. Now let's just look around the actual headset. We have all these cameras here for inside-out tracking. The strap with all these weird DIY jerry-rig things that I did, which I'll explain later. We have the lenses on the inside. And the head straps have Velcro straps, so you can adjust it accordingly to your head. Right underneath the headset, for the last physical aspect, is the IPD slider for your eyes. Now we're getting into the functionality of the headset. First of all, unlike other headsets that have preceded this, this is a inside-out tracking headset. So that means that you don't have to have physical sensors around the space to make your play area, meaning that everything's just done right on the headset. Which is probably why this headset has become so streamlined and blew up just this past holiday. Because inside-out tracking has been implemented fairly recently on certain headsets, of course there's going to be certain problems with it compared to sensors. One of them being that your play area will shift slightly over the course of time while you're using the headset. But that's fine because you can then just hold down the Oculus home button to then reset your positioning. Though I find this doesn't always work, and it can be quite wonky, especially if you're using Oculus Link on Steam VR games. The next thing we're going to look at though is the nose gap that causes light leakage. Now, I've seen a lot of people online complain about this, that it takes them out of the immersion. For me, once I get immersed in the game, it just kind of disappears for me, so I don't notice it too much. That's not to say that for some people, they may be sensitive to it, and this can affect overall immersion. I'm gonna get to the biggest thing that really bothers me about this headset, and has caused a lot of uproar on the internet, is that headset. This headset does no one any favors, and is just really poorly designed. And unfortunately, Oculus has not offered an official fix, which makes it all the more frustrating. That's when I'm getting into my mods that I've made on my headset. Good thing about my mod is that it makes this thing look really ugly, and I'm pretty sure no one wants to steal it. But seriously, here are the things that I put on it. On the back, I have a battery with Velcro straps. This works really well as a counterweight, and it can also be functional as a battery to charge the Quest at the same time. And then we're gonna get into this sock that really relieves the tension for your head, and I just happened to find this sock in the drawer, which is a Christmas elf sock. And the only reason why I chose it is because it happened to be the longest sock in the drawer at the time. And as ugly as it is, I can affirm that it really does help. Overall, this combo has made this headset much more bearable for longer uses. I think the longest I've ever had this headset was for about 4 hours, and it's really mitigated the effects of the headset crushing my face. Just know that it doesn't completely get rid of the effects. Your face is still going to be red after a while. When using the headset though, I have to take these glasses and actually shove them in, and because they're quite big, I have to bend them a little bit just so they slot in. If you're planning to do this because you have glasses just as big as mine, just be very careful. Your lenses can't scratch the lenses on the Quest. This is just the best way for me to do it. Otherwise, if I'm just wearing it and not slotting it into the actual headset, my glasses are literally just squishing my eyes, my glasses start to fog up and be really wet and sweaty, and it's just not an overall comfortable experience. Also, what probably helps me shoving the glasses in is the glasses spacers that come with the Quest that you can add behind the face cushion. Mentioning the face cushion, you might want to use alcohol wipes or something to wipe them down, especially if you're planning to bring this thing around, which I'm sure you are because it's cordless. It can get pretty gross. Enough with the headset, let's get into accessories, starting with the controllers. As you would expect, or wouldn't expect, these controllers are fantastic and are comparable to other first-party controllers like the Xbox One controller and the PS4 controller. I have about medium-sized hands, and when gripping these controllers for long periods of time, they feel great. Side note, they take AA batteries. One AA battery for each controller. Like many others on the interwebs, I have a problem with the controller and its magnetic lids for the battery. I noticed that when I first got them, they weren't that bad. They seemed to be pretty tight. But after a while, I felt like the magnet started to loosen up. Honestly though, this mainly and specifically affects me when I'm playing Lightsaber Dojo and throwing the lightsaber. The next accessory that I'm going to be talking about is another case that I spent $40 on. I think this case is pretty great. I do appreciate the compartments that it comes with where you can store your wires and your brick, and also slots to store your left and right Oculus controllers. Though zipping this thing up can be pretty tight thanks to my amazing upgrades. The last accessory I'm getting into is the Anchor 3.0 USB-C-A to USB-C. This is probably one of the most frustrating experiences on getting the right exact cord. So just make sure to do your research and get the right one. If anything, I'll link it down below as well. I actually ended up getting the 6 feet cable instead of the 10 feet cable because everybody and their mothers already went out to get the 10 feet cable, which led me to my next journey, finding an extension that worked with it. I actually started off getting the Amazon Basics 3.0 extension cord, but don't do it because unfortunately it doesn't work. Not really sure why, but it just wouldn't read the headset. After doing a little digging, I found the Ugreen 3.0 extension cable. This works perfectly and just fine with no noticeable lag. With the 6 feet anchor cable and the extension cord all together, it's gonna give you 12 feet of length. Oculus Link has worked great so far, besides certain what I feel is software issues. Like Valve's The Lab really doesn't work that great on it compared to other games on Steam VR that I've tried. Otherwise, every Oculus PC game works great. If you want to use Oculus Link, you have to have a pretty strong computer. So here's my computer with my spec sheet. Keep in mind that everything's not perfect yet because Oculus Link is still in beta. This is a great chance to segue into software for the Oculus Quest. The Oculus Quest has its own store separate from the PC Oculus store, meaning that a lot of games on here are optimized and improved specifically for the Quest. With the store only being probably less than a year old, that means that there is not nearly as much games as there is on the actual PC store. Since the games are optimized for the Quest specific specs, which are pretty low, that means that you're gonna get some performance differences between the Quest version and the PC version. This is most noticeable on a heavy game like Robo Recall, where it feels a bit different and the Quest version feels a bit worse just because of impact. So when I'm shooting robots and stuff, the impact for the PC version feels great, and you don't really get as much impact and particle effects in the Quest version, which makes the shots feel really empty. But otherwise, unless you're comparing the two, you're not going to notice right away. Games like Star Wars and Beat Saber aren't the most graphically advanced games, so you're really not going to notice much unless you actively compare them. And what I can notice from the Star Wars version, PC versus Quest, is that the PC version just has much better renderings and extra effects. And for Beat Saber, you get extra particle effects and I think everything just looks shinier. The UI is quite good. It's intuitive, really easy to navigate, quick and responsive, and they just have a ton of features on here. And one of my favorites is the Chromecast feature, which you can cast whatever you're playing or whatever you're doing on the home screen. When you do cast to a Chromecast, one thing to keep in mind is that the audio on the actual headset and the TV will be delayed. So to kind of stop that thing from bothering you, I would suggest wearing headphones if you're casting it onto a TV. If you can cast your YouTube app to your TV and your TV does not have Chromecast, that doesn't count. It's not going to work unless you specifically have a Chromecast. The Oculus Quest is a great introduction for beginner VR. And if it is your first time, don't worry too much about the graphics or the refresh rate or any of the numbers that are thrown at you. Granted, it's your first time, you're not going to really notice those things too much, and the experience is what really matters, and it's definitely there. For more seasoned VR people, you probably know the answer. It's either you want a high-end headset that has really great graphics, high refresh rate, versus wireless capability. The biggest question about this headset is that, should you drop $400 on the Quest? It's become so streamlined and so accessible, it kind of starts to make sense to get one. I'd have to say there are downsides to it. In my opinion, as a VR noob, this is my first headset that I've owned. The only other headset that I played is the original Oculus hooked to a PC. For $400, there's a lot more you can do in terms of a gaming experience. After my honeymoon with the Quest and playing about 3 weeks straight of it, I ended up just leaving it in my bag. That really relates to the value, and the overall gaming experience that it offers right now. Let's start comparing. For $400, you can get a PS3 for under $400, and then you have money left over for games that can last you quite a while, especially when you're comparing games like God of War and Uncharted that are probably now $15, that are each about 8 hours plus of gaming experience, versus a $30 to $40 Quest game that will last you about 2 to 4 hours, which is half the experience of that. I think one of the most simplest ways that I can talk about the Quest and its gaming experience is, my cousin told me that the games don't have soul. And when I started to think about that, I started to think he's right. I think Beat Saber is the only one that feels like a full-fledged game, and everything else just seems like an experiment. So there really hasn't been that gaming experience where you need to be on the Quest yet. But that's not to say that that can all change, especially with games like Half-Life. Half-Life Alyx can change the game on the VR gaming experience, and hopefully gets a lot of other developers to take VR seriously and make overall epic experiences. In short, if you have a lot of money to blow right now and you want to get a Quest, then sure, get the $400 Quest and then get as many games as you want to your heart's content to just enjoy that great VR experience. But if you're on the opposite end, where you're more of a budget gamer and money is a problem, then your mileage may vary depending on how much money you have and how much software you can obtain and afford. Those are all great things to think about. And again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.